Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachmim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael amecha. Establish peace, goodness, blessing, graciousness, kindness, and compassion upon us and upon all your people, the house of Israel.
When we talk of Judaism and Jews, we first have a problem of definition. Judaism is much more comprehensive than a religion. It has been suggested that Judaism is better described as a civilization. Of course, Jews have a theology and a unique conception of God, but that's only the first step. Judaism obligates its followers to a whole way of life, including a code of laws and practices, and a system of ethics. Jewish life includes a broad concept of holiness that embraces a holy people, the Holy Land of Israel, the holy city of Jerusalem, and the holy tongue of Hebrew. Judaism is not to be seen as a parallel term to Christianity or Buddhism, for example. For most of its history, Judaism has been an all-embracing system of theology, laws, ethics, and customs, all for a special people with a special language and a cherished homeland. Yet in the modern world, the nature of being a Jew is especially complicated. Judaism today has become pluralistic. Much of it corresponds with the traditional meaning of the word religion, but some of it would not be identified as religious in the eyes of many non-Jews. So, as we embark on our journey, let us be prepared sometimes to explore areas that may seem to be unusual components of religion, but which are integral parts of the unique tradition of Judaism. Jewish history began when the patriarch Abram, living in the land we now call Iraq, received a divine call that's described in the Bible.
The Lord said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto the land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and be thou a blessing.
Abram, father of the Jewish people, had one of the greatest of human inspirations.
The biblical story is that the Jewish people began really with Abraham's realization that there was only one God, and that God ruled all people and all history, all nations, and that God wanted people to be moral and good. And it was really Abraham's descendants that gradually grew into the Jewish people.
This monotheism was the greatest Jewish contribution to humankind, and it was the founding principle of Judaism. The Bible relates that Abraham made a covenant, a kind of pact or contract with God.
It is a promise that his family will multiply as the sand on the seas, and that they will live in this land that is controlled by their God.
They would be a mighty nation, and their home would be the land of Canaan, later known as the land of Israel. Within a few centuries after the patriarchs, the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt. But under the leadership of Moses, and following a series of extraordinary experiences that the Bible describes as miracles, they escaped from the Pharaoh's harsh persecution to the wilderness of Sinai. En route, they crossed the Red Sea. The Bible says the sea miraculously parted to enable them to pass. On Mount Sinai, Moses received from God the basic revelation that would guide the Jewish people throughout their history. From the mountain he brought down an entire code of laws and ethics, and at its core stood the 10 Commandments.
I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not take the name of the Lord.
Probably got more than just the 10 Commandments. But some of the law also may have developed later on. So Moses maybe established the basic framework for the law, and then the details were worked in as the community underwent historical experience. But really what makes Israel different from its surrounding Canaanite populations and the Edomites and the Moabites and the other people was their legal system, and was their moral system, and was their religious system, their belief in one God. that really did distinguish them from the other peoples who were living in the area.
Shall not covet.
The Mosaic Code is known in Hebrew as the Torah.
Torah means instruction. Could be used as a word for law. Could be. Sometimes, in a very specific sense, Torah refers to the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible.
After 40 years wandering in the Sinai wilderness, the 12 tribes of the children of Israel reached the Promised Land and conquered it. It took time for them to settle, but they eventually became a united kingdom, ruled first by Saul. Saul's successor, David, made Jerusalem his capital. He created a strong, unified Israel that Jews have never forgotten and which they have longed to recreate. David's successor, Solomon, built the temple in Jerusalem in about 960 BCE. This temple was the focus of the Israelite cult, which in scholarly terms means a system of religious worship or ritual. The Israelite cult centered around a sacrificial system. It was centralized by Moses in a portable sanctuary to be carried through the Sinai wilderness. This sanctuary would receive a permanent focus in the temple built by King Solomon in Jerusalem. The promised land of Israel was seen as the Holy Land. When King David made Jerusalem his capital, it became the Holy City. King Solomon built the temple. Special holiness was now attached to this site, which was seen as God's home on earth. When the temple was dedicated, Solomon prayed,
Hear the plea of your servant and of your people Israel, when they prayed toward this place. O here in heaven, your dwelling place, heed and forgive.
The people of the unified kingdom were known as the children of Israel, or Israelites. This name is based on the name Israel, which God had given to Jacob, the third patriarch and ancestor of the people.
What we also know is that after they did constitute a single community of the 12 tribes, that lasted only a very short time, really under Saul and then David and Solomon. And after Solomon, that community, that confederation broke apart into 2 groups. A northern group of somewhere between 7 and 10 of the tribes, and then the southern group with the remaining tribes. The northern group, called Israel, lasted for about another 200 years and then was conquered by the Assyrians and essentially disappeared from history. We really don't know what happened to them.
The word Jew now was applied to the whole people, and eventually the word Judaism was coined to refer to their religion. Another early name for the people was Hebrews. After Israel fell, the kingdom of Judah remained independent for more than a century, until 586 BCE, when Judah was captured by the Babylonians. The temple was destroyed. The elite of Judah was exiled to Babylonia. They managed to retain their identity, but the Psalms record their anguish.
By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down, yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. Upon the willows in the midst thereof we hanged up our harps, for they that had led us captive asked of us words of song, and our tormentors asked of us mirth. Sing us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land? If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. Let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I remember thee not, if I set not Jerusalem above my chiefest joy.